10 magic 10 magic random cards rated day number 75 over here, everybody. Hope your weekend's been going good. Hope you're wearing your pajamas and flip-flops. Hope you're comfortable. First card of the day is Defiant Ogre, printed in Fate Reforged. Again, that's the set that we started the YouTube channel on. 6 mana, 5 and a red for a 3/5 Ogre Warrior. When it ETBs, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on it, or destroy an artifact. For 6 mana in this economy, it's terrible. Let's give it 1.9. It can blow something up, I guess. Let's look at Squire. Oh my God, Squire. From my favorite set of all time, the Dark. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 1/2 human soldier. Very bad. So terrible, dude. 1.1. It's bad. It's real bad. We'll move on to Barren Moor. We did it, guys, earlier this week. Actually, I think it was like yesterday or the day before. I was talking about how when we get to Barren Moor, we'll give these a 6.5. And I think we will. Here. It's specifically Barren Moor, too. It could have been any of the other cycle for 1 mana lands, but it's actually Barren Moor. It ETB's tapped, it taps for a black, and you can cycle it for 1 black mana. This is a great cycle of cards. It really is. These are still, in my opinion, very commander playable. And there are other reasons why you might want to put a land in your graveyard, again, for Splendid Reclamation or land reanimation, relandimation, you know. I just made that word up. Let's try and make it a thing. These cards are fantastic. And I think they deserve every point of that 6.5, and they probably deserve a 6.51. I'll move on to an uncard. Yep, we don't rate those around here. Neat looking guy, though. What are you? Are you the One Ring right now? Are you? You're Soul Ring. Oh, it's Soul Ring. We've come to Soul Ring, everyone. We have never rated this card before. God, moving through all the printings of Soul Ring will take like a year and a half, won't it? Let's just get to the best printing. There have been probably, what does it say? 96. God, we're moving up on the 100th printing of Soul Ring, like soon. But the best one is the old one, everybody. Soul Ring is an artifact for 1 single mana. But here's the deal. You can tap it for 2 mana. Did you know that's good? Did you know it's very good to be able to do that? Grim Monolith is, closely, like the thing that they printed most closely to this in the timeline that's meant to resemble it. And Grim Monolith even had to be restricted eventually. Like, it's banned in Oathbreaker for some reason, it's banned in Legacy. That's how good the card is. If a card is banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage, then you know it is insane. Like, this is, next to the Moxen and Black Lotus, this is the most notorious and, in my opinion, the actual most played fast mana effect of all time. Because no one can afford Moxen unless you proxy him up or whatever. There was one guy at my old card shop, Magic Mike, we used to call him, that played, and this is before Magic Mike was a thing. It's just, he plays Magic, his name's Mike. His name's Magic Mike. He had Moxen, he had a Lotus, he had a Force Field. We looked at that yesterday. He had all those old cards, but he's like the only one I've ever seen that owned those cards. Whereas Soul Ring is like 50 cents. You know what I mean? Like, you can get a copy of Soul Ring for super cheap. It's in literally every commander deck. I do suggest that almost nearly no matter what your commander deck is doing, you play a Soul Ring in it. And they're not hard to get. But Soul Ring, I honestly think that's, I don't even think it's like, I have to defend it. I think it's just a true statement. This is the most played, the most resolved fast mana effect of all time. And next to, the big 6, Lotus and the Moxen, this is probably the best. And I know there's like Mox Diamond and Chrome Mox and stuff like that to consider too. But again, I still think with those things to consider, Soul Ring is in it's in there with the big boys. You know what I mean? So Him and Hallwin aside, I've been talking about this for a while. I have to rate it. I will give Soul Ring 9.5. I do. I will give this a 9.5. Just doesn't get a whole lot better than this. It really doesn't. I mean, the meme is that if there's 4 commander players at a table and only one of them resolves Soul Ring turn 1, that one's probably going to win. That's how good fast mana is. It's got quite the reputation. That's for a reason. But Determined Iteration is up next. I've never seen this card. This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, populate. Okay, the token created this way gains haste. Sack it at the beginning of the next end step. That's pretty good. It's not bad. Create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control is how you populate. So for 2 mana, you get a token every turn so long as you already have a token. That is a creature entered the battlefield trigger. That is an attacking with a creature trigger. That is a sacrifice a creature trigger. All that's good, you know. It kind of looks like an Urbrass Forge, all right? Especially considering it goes kind of well with Urbrass Forge because you can order the triggers in such a way that one token copies the other. I kind of like that. 2 mana is a pretty good like cost of entry for this effect, and it's actually like $5 to order this card too. So people know it's decent. This is very good, isn't it? Especially considering there's all kinds of nasty tokens to copy, especially if you have a token copy of a real creature. You know what I mean? Like not just like a dinky 1/1, but, and I'm not even talking about like an XX, like a 9/9 just token. I'm talking about like you copied one of your creatures that you played from your hand and it became a token, and then this can get crazy. So let's throw this dude a 6. I'm pretty sure I've never seen this card resolved. I've never seen this card in my life, but just like my brain is brewing up like stuff with it already. And I'm pretty sure it's kind of nuts. So I like this. A good, just even if it's in Judith, this could go so well in Judith, bro. Like I kind of like it. Kind of like it. Omenpath Journey is up next. Card's kind of a big old joke. It's still like $4, but I think it's a scarcity thing because like nobody opened big score. 4 mana, 3 and a green for an enchantment. When at ETB, search your library for up to 5 land cards that have different names. Exile them, shuffle up. At the beginning of your end step, choose a card at random. Exile with Journey, put it onto the battlefield tap. So if you go get your Gaia's Cradle with this, you don't even get to like ensure that you get it. You know what I mean? I guess you can. Because if you pay 4 mana, the Cradle can be the only land you go get. It does say up to 5. So that makes sure you get Cradle or Nykthos or whatever land you're looking for. So I guess it's kind of a land tutor. In that way, it's probably better than I think it is in Commander. But if nobody breaks this, it's kind of a ramp 5 over a very long period of time for 4 mana, which is like theoretically playable. But if your opponent breaks it at any point, you don't get the rest of the lands ever. It just basically thin your deck by 5 cards and you don't get most of them. So that's like bad. That's pretty terrible. I think 4 mana is too much for this. I think even in modern day Commander context, having to wait till, you know, you have 4 mana to cast this and then waiting a total of like 4-5 turns or whatever, to get all the lands out of it is just not great. But I guess on all those turns, it guarantees a landfall trigger. So whatever, you know, sometimes it'll guarantee double landfall triggers because you'll play one out of your hand. I could see situations like use cases for the card, but I still don't love it. So I'm going to give it a 4.9 and there will be arguments, I'm pretty sure, on that tip. But we'll move on to Peregrine Drake, everybody, originally printed in Urza's Saga. 5 mana for a 2/3 Drake with flying. When it enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. This is really good. This saw no real play back in the day in Standard. But it does still see play in Commander decks. As a matter of fact, not long ago, I saw an episode of Shuffle Up and Play where Charlie, Moist Critical, Penguin Zero, whatever you want to call him, he played this card. I was like, oh, hey, buddy. Haven't seen you in a minute, but it's good to know you're still out here. This is more than a free 2/3 flyer. Because if it were just a free 2/3 flyer you had to pay 5 mana for, like wait till turn 5 or whatever, ramp into to play, then it wouldn't be very good. Just a free 2/3 flyer sounds okay, but this is a ridiculous, exorbitant mana cost for that. The fact that it untapped 5 lands is the good part here because you get to, untap really good lands. Again, Cradle and Nykthos come to mind, but there's also stuff like Cabal Coffers and Phyrexian Tower, and there's just so many lands to untap. Utility lands that tap to make tokens and all kinds of garbage that you can sort of abuse with a Peregrine Drake. You want to untap lands because lands, it turns out, are very good cards. So I'll give Peregrine Drake like a 5.4. No, I won't. I'll give this card a 5.74. So I actually think it deserves it. Untapping lands is very powerful. It's not as powerful as Cloud of Fairies, which I will give like a higher score when we see it, but it's still very good. Next is Simic Growth Chamber. These bounce lands, I forget what we're supposed to give them, but I think I've been giving them 6.5s or 7s whenever I see them. I'll give Simic Growth Chamber a 7, and the reason I give it a 7, hold on here, is because, again, landfall builds tend to be some combination of these colors, and definitely green they tend to be. So the green ones tend to be better than the other ones because one of the reasons you want to bounce a land is landfall. But there's tons of other reasons you might want to bounce a land. We've been over them before. I'm not going to go over them again and belabor the point. But obviously, these cards are all quite good. Better than they all look to a lot of players. So I think 7 is actually a fair score. I do. Nahiri, Storm of Stone is up next. Ooh, an anime art one. That's cool. But the actual card is 4 mana, 2 and 2 Boros hybrids for a legendary planeswalker with 6 starting loyalty. As long as it's your turn, creatures you control have first strike, and equip abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. You can pay X loyalty and have Nahiri deal X damage to target tapped creature. We must have been in a pretty powerful standard for this to see like absolutely no play whatsoever when it was in War of the Spark standard, and we were in a powerful standard for what it's worth. But I still think this is good. Every time I read this card, because I feel like I just read it recently, not for this series, I like it. 4 mana for a global effect that gives all your guys first strike on your turn. Okay, we're starting to talk. We're starting to, like, a 4 mana enchantment gives all your guys first strike isn't super playable, but it's getting there. But also, it also just gives you a mana reduction ability on equips. Okay. It also has a removal mode that it can use the turn it comes into play and probably kill something even middling size. Okay. Sometimes it can use that removal ability like 3 times to kill 3 different guys. Like, oh my God. Like, a removal spell that also gives all your guys first strike is almost playable. Like, it really is almost playable just by itself. But then you slap on the like extra gravy for equipped decks, and it just goes in those, and it's the right color to be an equipped decks. And I don't know. I give this card like a lot of credit, and I don't think anybody else does. So I'll give this card the honorary 5 of the video. I haven't doled one of those out yet, and I really think Nahiri deserves it, and a little bit of reevaluation from people who may have forgotten she existed. This card's okay. I really think it is. But last card of the day is Dragonlord Servant. Man, this is good. This is 2 mana. Originally printed in Dragons of Tarkir. Doesn't that make sense? 1 and a red for a 1/3 Goblin Shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's ramp. It's ramp in your Dragons deck. Your Dragons deck doesn't have to be red-green anymore. You can just play Seething Song and like this guy and get to big mana relatively quick. You can play a 4-drop dragon the turn after you play this, and that means you can play a good dragon. Since they usually start around 4 mana, And then the next turn, if he's still in play, then it's just outright crazy. If you somehow have multiple copies of this in a more kitchen table-y, Dragons build, it's very good. But even in Commander, where you can only play the 1, still fantastic. It still really is. You want to play it in your Dragons deck. And the card still holds steady around 50 cents despite all these printings, because Dragon decks are still pretty popular in casual Commander, which is what we're rating these cards for. So I'm going to give Servant a 5.5. Obviously narrow, but pretty good mana reduction, if not production, in those Dragon decks. So will always be a little bit iconic in Commander. But it's Saturday. I think I'm going to instill a Saturday extra card tradition around here, if I can remember to do it. I'll write it down somewhere on here. But yeah, Saturday extra card. What's it going to be? Let's spin the wheel, everybody. It's Born Upon a Wind. I have zero clue what this card is. I've never seen it in my life. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an instant. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. Draw a card. Okay, so it's a quicken effect for 2 mana. These are typically pretty good. You can get one of these for 62 cents at the lowest, 97 cents at the middling, So that's not terrible. That's not bad. A quicken effect that cantrips. It's just solid, It's a flash, which is a card that's gotten Protean Hulk into play a lot of times in its career, and it's got banned and stuff. Born Upon a Wind, though. God, it's tough. Man, did the extra card have to be this tough? At least it's a good card, though. I'll hold ground that this is a good card. I just like quicken effects in general. I think they make a lot of pretty insane things possible, and a lot of fun things possible. And obviously drawing a card, too, like replacing itself in your hand, that's good, dude. That's worth an extra mana from some of these effects, the quicken specifically. So I'm going to give the last, the bonus here, a 5.6. I'll give it I like quickens, man. I really do. But that's all the cards for Saturday. I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, which apparently is Sunday. But again, if I've said this a few times this week, you're watching this out of order or in the future, or you just found this series in 2029 or whatever it is, thanks for watching. It's whatever day it is for you. Have a good one, buddy. Thanks. Bye.